Daniel woke up on his 32nd birthday, feeling perfectly content with life as it was. He and Fiona had been married for a handful of years, their dynamic defined by mutual support and a steady sense of companionship. Fiona, 2 years younger than Daniel, was more daring by nature. She often pulled him out of his comfort zone with her spontaneous plans, and although he sometimes felt uneasy, he appreciated the fresh perspective she brought into his routine. He had no reason to suspect that this birthday would be any different from the previous ones. But when he emerged from the shower that afternoon to find Fiona waiting for him with an eager glow in her eyes, he caught the first stirrings of something beyond the usual. He should have guessed that she had a surprise in store. Fiona always had a particular grin on her face when she was up to something. Standing in the doorway of their bedroom, she wore that grin now, one corner of her mouth curved up and her arms folded in front of her. She looked him over, still dripping from the shower, then held up a small silken piece of cloth. It looked like a blindfold. "What's that?" Daniel asked, a crooked smile on his face as he toweled his hair. "A little something for your birthday," Fiona replied. "Nothing too wild. Okay, maybe a bit wild. Are you game?" Daniel reached for a fresh shirt but paused, studying the blindfold in her hand. He hesitated, then let out a short laugh. "I guess so, sure." "Good," she said, her dark eyes dancing with excitement. "Because I have it all planned out. Trust me on this." He noticed that she was dressed casually, jeans and a fitted top, which meant she probably didn't intend to take him out somewhere fancy, at least not yet. This was going to be some sort of private event, presumably just for the two of them. She approached him, pressing the blindfold gently to his eyes. "Fiona," he said with a chuckle, "you do know I'm not a huge fan of these kinds of surprises, right?" "Don't worry, I've made it as fun as possible," she teased. "And hey, it's just us. Relax." He exhaled, letting her tie the soft cloth over his eyes. Now enveloped in darkness, he felt her tug on his arm. "Come on, carefully," she directed. Guided by her voice, he put one foot in front of the other. He could hear the faint sound of something rustling inside their bedroom, a sense of anticipation coursing through him. The carpet under his feet felt familiar, but taking uncertain steps still made him uneasy. Eventually, she settled him in a spot near the bed. "All right," she said. "Don't move. I'll be right back." He listened to the shuffling of her feet, something being zipped open, something else being unwrapped. His pulse quickened as his imagination worked overtime. Fiona was known for her mischievous streak, but this felt more deliberate. Suddenly he felt her hands on his shoulders. "Okay, here we go," she murmured. "Try to keep still." He felt soft bristles brush along his cheeks, then something moist dabbed across his forehead. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice laced with nervous laughter. "You'll find out soon enough," she answered, obviously trying to maintain a calm tone but unable to hide a certain amusement. "Just trust me, all right?" It was an odd, tingling sensation. A brush stroked his face, then glided over his eyelids. He felt slight pressure across his brow, his nose, and his chin. He caught the scent of makeup, foundation or concealer maybe. Daniel squirmed, mouth tightening with unease, but he fought the urge to pull away. He didn't want to spoil the effort she was putting into this, but it was impossible to ignore the underlying nervousness. Was she really putting makeup on him? He heard the slide of a zipper, then a quick comment from Fiona. "Tilt your head, please. Just a bit." He complied. The brush changed, becoming thinner, possibly for eyeliner or something of that sort. Despite his apprehension, there was something strangely calming about Fiona's gentle touch. He held as still as he could, letting her paint and shape whatever she was creating on his face. "Almost done," Fiona whispered. "Hang in there." Next came what felt like dabs of lipstick. The delicate sensation made his heart pound. He was intensely aware of how unfamiliar this was. his wife applying makeup on him, something he never imagined he would experience. He couldn't decide if he found it fun, mortifying, or curious. Maybe all three. After a few more minutes, Fiona's hands left his face. He heard the rustle of something near his head before feeling a gentle tug against his scalp. It wasn't unpleasant, more of a soothing brush running along his hair, but then he felt new tension at his hairline. "All right, time for the next phase," Fiona said softly. "This might feel weird." He felt her gather his hair in a tight hold. Then she carefully fit something over his head. The weight of it was surprising. It felt like a wig. Strands of hair tickled his face. He let out a breath, feeling overwhelmed by this novel situation. "Is that a wig?" he asked, unable to hide the shakiness in his tone. "Yes," Fiona replied. "Don't panic, it looks great. Well, from what I can see. Just wait for the final effect." His heart banged in his chest. The wig was arranged with small pins or clips near his temples, and he sensed that Fiona was doing her best not to pull or pinch. Finally, she stepped back, letting out a quiet, satisfied sigh. "Okay, the face is done," she announced. "Now for the outfit." "The outfit?" he echoed nervously. "Fiona, what are you up to?" She took his hands. Her voice was gentle, but there was an edge of excitement that made it hard to remain calm. "I promise you, Daniel, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. This is just a special birthday surprise. You've always told me you wanted to understand me better, that you admire how I'm comfortable trying new things, so I'm inviting you into something I put together just for tonight." He swallowed. "I'm not sure I get it." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she placed something smooth and silky in his hands. It took him a few seconds to realize that it was a garment, lightweight and luxurious against his fingers. "Fiona, shh," she said. "No more questions. Just put your arms up, all right?" He obliged, lifting his arms. Fiona helped him slip into the garment, guiding the sleeves over his limbs. He felt the shivery stroke of expensive fabric sliding against his skin, and soon his torso was enveloped in it. When she finished adjusting it around his shoulders, he felt the hem drape down around his legs, stopping well below his knees. "Is this—" Daniel trailed off, feeling the neckline, the slender straps. "Is this a dress?" Her playful laugh was his answer. "Yes, it's an evening gown. I picked one of my favorites, though it's a bit big on me. But I think it might fit you well enough. Stay still. I'm going to zip it up." She tugged at the back, and he felt the snug zip close between his shoulder blades, stopping near the middle of his spine. His body tensed involuntarily. The sensation of a fitted gown hugging his midsection was jarring. Part of him wanted to protest that this was too much, that he was uncomfortable. Yet another part of him was strangely entranced by how unexpectedly intimate this felt. The soft cloth against his skin, the tug at his waist. Everything was new and startling. "All right," Fiona said with a laugh that betrayed her own excitement. "You look incredible if I do say so myself. Ready to see?" He paused, feeling sweat bead at his temples under the wig. "Yes," he finally managed, though he wasn't entirely sure. She reached behind his head, slowly removing the blindfold. At first, he had to blink a few times to let his eyes adjust. Then he saw himself in the dresser mirror. He inhaled sharply. He almost didn't recognize the figure in front of him. Fiona had chosen a flowing midnight blue gown with thin straps over the shoulders and a modest yet elegant neckline. Against his chest, it formed an appealing line, and though his figure didn't fill it out the way hers did, it felt surprisingly right in its own way. Makeup framed his eyes, elongating them, and the lipstick, a warm, dusky shade, brought attention to his lips. The wig cascaded in soft waves just past his shoulders. He could hardly speak. Fiona stood behind him, her face glowing as she admired her work in the mirror. "Well?" she asked. "What do you think?" Daniel stared at his reflection. He expected to feel only embarrassment, but that was not all that swirled through him. Sure, there was some discomfort rising in his chest, a startled tension that made him want to hide. Yet there was also a gentle flutter of intrigue. He looked so different, yet there were glimpses of himself in the mirrored eyes staring back. It was still him, and Fiona's expression, simultaneously playful and tender, held him in place. I don't know what to say," he admitted, voice trembling. She slid her arms around his waist from behind, resting her chin lightly on his shoulder. "You look great," she murmured. "I wanted you to feel something new tonight. It's a way to let go of whatever labels we carry every day. Just for tonight, let's shake things up. Will you trust me in this?" He swallowed, trying to find words that wouldn't sound foolish. I'm not sure. This is really different for me." "I know. It was a big leap for me too, setting all this up." She leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to his cheek. "But you're safe with me, and no one else is here. It's just for us." He turned in her arms, the swish of the dress around his legs reminding him that this was real. "Okay," he breathed. "I'm with you." He felt foolish, flustered, and yet strangely drawn to remain in this moment. Fiona grasped his hand, leading him away from the mirror. "We can talk more in a minute," she said, guiding him to sit on the bed. "For now, just feel it out. If it makes you feel uneasy, tell me. We'll go slowly." He nodded. His gaze dipped to the gown's neckline, the wig's gentle weight pulling against his scalp, and the lipstick he could taste every time he wet his lips. Fiona stood in front of him, biting her lower lip as though reading the confusion in his face. "Does it feel too tight around the waist?" she asked, a practical note in her tone. He considered that for a moment. "No, it's snug, but comfortable enough." "Good. I didn't want you to feel restricted. Stand up for me again." He rose, and she circled around him, smoothing the gown in the back. He was hyper-aware of how the fabric hugged his body, the extra swish at his calves. He could see Fiona's reflection in the mirror, checking for any lumps or wrinkles. "Perfect," she said, stepping back to admire him from the front. "It really does fit you nicely. I love it." He found himself blushing. His wife was openly complimenting how he looked in a dress, something he never thought he'd hear. It was hard to reconcile the warm sense of pride he felt at her praise with the awkwardness swirling in his stomach. "So, what now?" he asked, voice unsteady. She pursed her lips, considering. "We can do anything we want. It's your birthday. We could have dinner at home, watch a movie together, or just talk." She smirked. "We could even dance if you're up for it." "Dance? In this?" His eyebrows shot up, unconsciously messing with the perfectly blended eyeshadow she had applied. She giggled, pulling him gently away from the mirror. "Yes, in that. Come on, let's head to the living room. I'll put on a slow song or something fun. We'll figure it out." He gave her a faint smile and allowed himself to be tugged by the hand. As they walked, he felt a peculiar rush. The swaying of the gown felt both alien and, in a small way, enchanting. At least in the privacy of their own home, he didn't have to worry about prying eyes or judgments. He could attempt to let go of the embarrassment and focus on the moment. Fiona led him into the living room. She switched on a lamp near the couch, creating a warm glow that balanced the fading daylight. Then she picked up her phone and scrolled through a playlist. Soon, a soothing tune drifted from the speakers, resonating softly across the room. "Your hand?" she prompted, extending her own. He slipped his fingers into hers, allowing her to place his other hand on her waist. It felt backward, like he was stepping into a role he didn't understand. Yet he tried to breathe, to remain present in this moment with his wife. The music was gentle, the beat slow and inviting. They began to sway in tiny circles, shifting one foot at a time. With the gown brushing his legs, it took him a minute to find his balance. "It's a little like wearing a tuxedo with a long tail," he joked nervously, trying to ease his tension with humor. "Except it's very different." She laughed softly. "You'll get used to the fabric. Let it move with you." He nodded. As they continued dancing, her arms circled around him, drawing him closer. He relaxed his shoulders, letting the gentle rhythm guide them. The closeness felt personal and warm, and soon enough, the novelty of the outfit receded into the background, overshadowed by the comfort of holding his wife. After the track ended, Fiona took a step back, a thoughtful look on her face. "I have an idea," she said, walking to the kitchen. She returned with 2 wine glasses and an unopened bottle of a red blend she'd bought for the occasion. "Birthday toast," she declared, uncorking the bottle and pouring. "Sit with me." She settled on the couch, patting the cushion beside her. Daniel carefully sat down, adjusting the hem of the gown so he wouldn't trip or tug it too tightly. Once they were both seated, Fiona handed him a glass. "To you," she said, raising hers in a toast. "To us, and to new experiences." He hesitated, feeling the weight of her words, then lifted his glass. "To us," he echoed. They clinked glasses and sipped. The wine's warmth slid down his throat, loosening some of the tension he felt. He looked at her, taking in her soft smile. "Fiona," he began carefully, "this is definitely not what I expected for my birthday." A small grin tugged at her mouth. "I'm guessing you expected something more along the lines of dinner at that Italian place, or maybe some new gadget wrapped in a gift box, but I wanted to do something that would bring us closer. This idea popped into my head a few weeks ago. Don't ask me where it came from, and I thought it might be a chance to see how we feel about switching things around a bit." He nodded slowly, swirling the wine in his glass. "And you're happy with how it turned out?" She cocked her head. "Do you not see how stunning you look? I might have gone overboard with the lipstick color, but you pull it off. Seriously, Daniel, I'm glad you let me do this." He lowered his eyes, somewhat shy under her praise. "You've always had a knack for pushing me out of my comfort zone." Her playful grin resurfaced. "Guilty. But I don't push you without reason. I know there's a cautious part of you that sometimes wants to explore more than you let on, and I love tapping into that." A surge of conflicting emotions rippled through him. He took another sip of wine. "I admit, it feels good to know you're excited. Though, I'll be honest, I'm also kind of freaking out on the inside." She placed a hand on his knee, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I understand. This is intense. But let me ask you this. Are you okay with going further tonight? Or do you want to change back into your usual clothes?" He looked into her eyes, searching for any hint of judgment. All he found was genuine curiosity and warmth. He thought about the swirl of sensations, the pressure of the dress on his body, the alien feeling of makeup on his face. It was strange, yet there was a piece of him that felt unexpectedly intrigued. "I think," he said after a moment, "I'd like to keep wearing it for a while longer. Let's see where that takes us." Her grin broadened. "I'm really glad to hear that." They talked for a while on the couch, sipping wine, sharing laughter, and occasionally Fiona would comment on his newly shaped eyebrows or how the wig made his features look softer. Daniel felt a mixture of flattery and bashfulness. Bit by bit, he noticed that the tension within him was transforming into a heightened awareness, as though he was stepping into a perspective he'd never considered before. Eventually, Fiona shifted closer and laid her head on his shoulder. He could smell the faint aroma of her shampoo and feel the warmth of her breath. "Thank you for letting me do this," she repeated softly. Daniel set his glass down, wrapping an arm around her. "I'm glad you're so confident about it. It's definitely new territory for me." "I know, and we don't have to figure out everything right this second," she said. "Let's just enjoy the evening." He nodded, resting his cheek lightly on the top of her head. They fell into a comfortable silence, the low hum of music playing in the background. A few minutes later, Fiona stirred. "You want to see the rest of what I have set up?" she asked. "There's more?" he asked, half teasing, half nervous. "Just a little something." She stood, taking his hand again and guiding him back to the bedroom. The large mirror still bore witness to the transformation. Daniel caught his reflection again, feeling that odd flutter in his chest. He wasn't sure if he should break eye contact with the mirror or confront it head-on. Fiona reached under the bed and produced a small gift bag with tissue paper. "Here," she said, offering it to him. "Open it." He removed the tissue paper, revealing a pair of satin gloves in the same shade of midnight blue as the gown and a small jewelry box. His brow creased as he lifted the gloves from the bag. "Wow." "Try them on," she urged. "They're a fun accessory. I picked these up hoping you'd go along with tonight's plan. They might be a bit long on your arms, but they'll look fancy." He slid on the gloves, feeling the cool satin glide against his skin. They reached above his elbows, making the entire look more dramatic. It was disconcerting to see the transformation moving a step further, but part of him was undeniably fascinated. Next, he opened the jewelry box. Inside was a pair of clip-on earrings with sparkling teardrop pendants. He looked at Fiona. "You really went all out, didn't you?" She laughed, taking them out of the box. "I did. Let me put them on you." He leaned down so she could carefully secure the clips to his ears. A slight pinch accompanied the sensation, but not too painful. He turned back to the mirror. The earrings shimmered softly with any small movement of his head, complementing the wig and the outfit more fully than he expected. "Fiona," he said quietly, You look absolutely amazing," she finished for him, coming up behind him once more and resting her chin on his shoulder. "I'm so proud of you for trying this." He felt a swell of emotion. A mixture of insecurity lingered, but it was joined by a flickering sense of possibility. He wasn't entirely sure why this meant so much, only that his wife's enthusiasm lit a spark within him. They spent more time in the bedroom, talking softly, examining different angles in the mirror. Fiona pointed out how the wig's highlights caught the lamp's glow, how the makeup accentuated his cheekbones. Daniel listened, letting her words sink in. Soon, it was time to decide how the rest of the night would play out. "Do you want to just hang out together in here?" Fiona ventured. "Or are you okay taking this to the kitchen and cooking dinner like this? Or maybe we can order something in." He swallowed, considering the possibilities. A nervous thrill rippled through him at the thought of moving around the house in the gown. But at the same time, he realized there was a reason to keep going. Fiona was thoroughly enjoying seeing him like this, and deep down, he couldn't deny some level of curiosity in himself. "Why not cook dinner together?" he suggested, though he felt slightly self-conscious at the idea. "It might be fun. I can manage in the gown, I think." She smiled widely. "That sounds perfect. I'll help. Let's go." He followed her out of the bedroom, carefully navigating the corridor. Each time the satin gown brushed against him, it reminded him of how unusual this was. Yet with Fiona's unwavering smile and the affectionate glances she cast over her shoulder, he managed to push past his lingering discomfort. In the kitchen, they rummaged through the fridge and pantry. Fiona quickly proposed a simple pasta dish with a homemade sauce. Standing at the counter, Daniel felt strange lifting pans and chopping onions while wearing gloves and a wig. Nonetheless, Fiona's encouraging laughter occasionally broke the tension. "You know," she teased as she poured tomatoes into a pot, "you're making that gown look even better. I'm starting to think it was always meant for you." "Don't get too used to it," he teased back, though his joke held a hint of unease. "I'm still figuring out how I feel about all this." She reached over and squeezed his arm. "No pressure. Let's just enjoy tonight." The sauce simmered, filling the room with the comfort of cooking aromas. Daniel stirred, occasionally glancing at Fiona. She was in her casual clothes, no elaborate outfit or makeup, yet she shone brighter than ever in his eyes. Her eagerness to guide him through something so different made him love her all the more. They moved around each other in the kitchen, tasting the sauce, adding a sprinkle of salt. Finally, they drained the pasta, combined everything, and served steaming plates at the small dining table near the window. As they ate, the conversation weaved from joking about their day to quietly reflecting on how it felt to break from routine. "It's funny," Daniel said at one point, swirling pasta around his fork. "The most unusual thing I thought I'd do this week was maybe try that new coffee shop in town, but here I am, wearing a wig and a dress." Fiona's eyes sparkled as she grinned over her pasta. "So, on a scale of 1 to ridiculous, how bizarre is this for you right now?" He paused, giving the question some thought. "It's definitely near the far end of bizarre, but not in a bad way. More like, it's unsettling yet kind of exhilarating." "I get that," she said softly. "I've pushed myself to try new styles before, tried all sorts of ways to feel confident in my own skin. Sometimes it's about the thrill of leaving the usual behind for a little while. Having you dip your toes into that feeling with me is really special." He nodded, then teased, "But to be clear, I'm still definitely me. Under all this, it's still Daniel." She offered him a knowing smile. "I know, and I love that about you." They finished dinner, exchanging more tender smiles than usual, as if both recognized that something was shifting in the air between them. Once they cleared the plates, Fiona took his hand again, drawing him into a light embrace. "Dance some more?" she asked softly. He rested his chin atop her head, glancing down at the midnight blue gown. "Sure, let's dance." They returned to the living room, this time turning off some of the overhead lights so that only the soft glow of a standing lamp illuminated the space. Fiona selected another slow song, and they spun in small circles on the rug. Daniel found himself settling more easily into the gentle motion. The nerves had not vanished entirely, but they had receded enough for him to focus on the tenderness that marked this moment with Fiona. At the end of the song, Fiona nudged him toward the couch again. They sat in a comfortable hush, neither of them quite ready to break the mood. She was the first to speak. "You've been a really good sport about this. I want you to know that if you want to stop at any time, you can. But," she paused, searching for the right words, "if you'd like to explore this further, maybe not just tonight, I'd be open to talking about that. There's so much we can try. Different dresses, hairstyles, or other ways to mix things up, only if that's something you'd want to do." He swallowed, a swirl of emotions rising in him. "I don't know what to say. I didn't expect to enjoy any part of this, but it's not as simple as I expected." She nodded. "I won't push you. I just wanted to let you know I'm here for you, whatever you decide." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles through the satin glove. "Thank you," he whispered. They ended the night side by side, chatting softly, occasionally returning to the bedroom so that Daniel could look at the mirror once more. The initial shock had worn off, giving way to a subdued wonder. He didn't have answers, but he realized he was okay with not having them right away. He was content to let the night stand on its own, a moment of closeness, and a step outside his everyday outlook. Eventually, Daniel grew tired. He could feel the weight of the wig pressing on his head. Fiona, noticing his fatigued gaze, offered a tender smile. "You can change back if you want," she said. "We should probably get some sleep soon, unless you want to stay dressed like this a bit longer." He hesitated for a few heartbeats, then nodded. "Yeah, I think it's time to change." This was intense. They returned to the bedroom. Fiona helped him carefully unclip the earrings and slide off the gloves. He studied them before setting them aside, still trying to process the fact that these items had adorned him. Then he reached up, feeling for the pins that secured the wig. Fiona assisted him gently, removing each one so she could lift the wig from his scalp. His hair was flattened, slightly sweaty, and the relief of cool air against his head made him sigh. He looked in the mirror again, now without the wig, but still in full makeup. It was like seeing a different mix of features. Fiona smirked and said, "Do you want help removing the makeup, or would you like a photo first?" He felt his cheeks flush. "A photo. I think we'll want to remember this. It's your birthday surprise after all." He hesitated, an impulse to decline rising swiftly. Then, almost impulsively, he nodded. "Okay, maybe 1 or 2 quick pictures." Fiona retrieved her phone, and Daniel stood in front of the mirror. He tried a half smile, unsure how to pose. Fiona snapped a few shots, capturing him in the midnight blue gown, glamorous makeup still intact. "Thank you," she said softly, lowering her phone. "I'll keep these between us, always." He nodded, grateful. Then he stepped away to unzip the dress. Slipping out of the satin garment felt strange, like letting go of some new, surprising part of the night. Fiona handed him a soft t-shirt and a pair of shorts, which he slipped into with relief. But when he glanced into the mirror, the makeup on his face stood out even more with his usual casual clothes. Fiona chuckled. "You look so fierce in that shirt and leftover makeup." She gestured to the small vanity. "Let's clean it off. I've got makeup wipes in the bathroom." He followed her, and they both crowded at the sink, Fiona gently guiding a remover wipe across his cheeks and eyelids. She was patient, methodical. He felt oddly wistful as the layers of foundation, eyeliner, and lipstick dissolved, revealing his bare skin once more. It had been an entire night of feeling something new, and now it was vanishing. He let out a long breath. "All gone," Fiona announced, dabbing the last specks of color from his lips. She peered at him. "You still have a bit of glitter around your eyes. I can get that too." He gave a short laugh. "I'll handle it. I think I can manage a bit of glitter in bed." She winked. "Suit yourself." They climbed under the covers, exhaustion settling into their limbs. For a few minutes they lay in the dark, the hum of the bedroom fan the only sound. "Fiona?" he whispered eventually. She replied, half asleep. "Thank you for everything." Her hand searched for his, fingers intertwining. "Happy birthday, Daniel. I love you." He squeezed her hand. "I love you too." The next morning, Daniel woke before Fiona. Sunlight filtered through a gap in the blinds. His mind drifted back to the events of the previous night, making him sit up a little straighter. He glanced at the closet door, where the midnight blue gown now hung carefully. He still couldn't entirely believe he had worn it. He left the bed quietly, padding into the kitchen to make coffee. As he waited for it to brew, he stared at the countertop, replaying the mixture of excitement and unease he had felt. He didn't know if Fiona would expect him to talk about it right away, or if she might let it pass as a fun birthday memory. Either possibility made his stomach flutter. Fiona eventually appeared, yawning, her hair rumpled with sleep. She wandered over to him, accepted the mug of coffee he offered, and gave him a morning kiss on the cheek. "Good morning," he said softly. She sipped her coffee, eyes still drowsy. "Morning. How are you feeling?" He shrugged. "Honestly? Confused, but not in a bad way." She nodded. "That's understandable. There was a lot to take in last night. Do you want to talk about it?" He sipped his own coffee, choosing his words with care. "I don't fully know how to describe it. Wearing that dress, seeing myself that way, it was terrifying at first. But after a while, it also felt like I stepped outside of the usual boundaries I've set up for myself. And it felt interesting." He realized he had almost used words he'd typically associate with big personal growth. Instead, he paused, searching for a simpler way to express it. "I guess I found it both scary and kind of freeing," he concluded. Fiona reached out, resting a hand on his. "We don't have to decide anything right now. Last night was just a private experiment. Whether you want to do it again or not, I'm here." He studied her relaxed features. "I appreciate that," he said. "Let's keep that door open." She smiled, leaning up to place a gentle kiss on his mouth. "Then we'll see where it leads." They spent the rest of the morning going about their usual routine, sharing breakfast, tidying up, exchanging jokes about how many dishes they had let pile up the night before. Yet they both felt a quiet undercurrent, the knowledge that something important had transpired. Over the next few days, life settled into its familiar pattern. Daniel went to work, found himself stepping into the usual obligations. He responded to messages from family and friends who sent belated birthday wishes. He caught himself thinking about the photos still on Fiona's phone. Sometimes, in moments of daydream, he even wondered about other outfits that might have worked for him. The thought made him both smile and tense up, a reminder that there was some uncharted territory he wasn't sure how to approach. One evening, as they cooked dinner again, Fiona brought up the subject with a gentle nudge. "So, how are you feeling about last weekend? Any aftershocks?" He added pepper to the sauce, then turned the heat down. "Some," he admitted. "I can't stop thinking about it. Part of me wants to just brush it off as a fun night, but another part of me wonders if there's more to it." She watched him, her eyes warm but inquisitive. "And what do you think?" He fiddled with the spoon in his hand. "I think we could maybe try it again sometime. I don't know when. My head's spinning with possibilities, and I need time to process them." She nodded slowly. "That's completely fair." They ate together, letting the conversation flow into other topics, the upcoming weekend's errands, a friend's birthday party, small everyday concerns that ordinarily filled their evenings. But Daniel felt a surge of appreciation for her willingness to be patient, to let him figure this out without pressure. Days turned into weeks. They had more conversations, quiet, intimate discussions, in which Daniel expressed his mixed emotions. He wasn't sure how to define anything, wasn't even sure if it needed labeling. All he knew was that the night in the midnight blue gown had touched on something deep within him, and he found himself imagining variations on that theme. He even mentioned, half-jokingly, that he might like to pick out a garment for himself one day, something specifically tailored to his body, rather than wearing Fiona's dresses. She'd responded with an eager light in her eyes, offering to take him shopping if he wanted. That suggestion lingered in the air, a possibility he hadn't ruled out. One Saturday afternoon, Daniel and Fiona found themselves cleaning their closet. They pulled everything out, sorted clothes for donation, folded winter sweaters, checked old boxes for items they no longer needed. At one point, they came across the midnight blue gown, tucked neatly in a protective garment bag. Fiona laid it carefully on the bed. "You want to keep this in the front of the closet or pack it away?" she asked, meeting his gaze. He stared at the gown for a long moment, recalling how the satin felt against his skin. "Let's keep it in the front," he finally said. "It belongs there." A soft smile graced her lips. All right. She hung it up near her own dresses, not hidden away, but visible. They resumed their cleaning, but the gown's presence in the closet felt like a quiet symbol of a new chapter in their marriage. Although neither of them could predict exactly where it might lead, they both sensed that the changes it had sparked were real. It wasn't just a random prank or a temporary whim. It was a deeper moment of feeling something different, of seeing each other in a fresh light. On a quiet evening not too long after, they settled down in the living room to watch a movie. Halfway through, Fiona paused it, seemingly lost in thought. Daniel? He glanced over, noticing the reflective look on her face. Yeah. I've been thinking, maybe next weekend, when we have a day off, we could go out of town a bit. There's a small boutique district about an hour's drive away with more open-minded fashion shops. We could see if there's something you might want to try on. No pressure, but I thought it could be fun if you're interested. He felt a thrill of nerves. You mean, for me? Yes, for you, she said gently. Only if it appeals to you. We don't have to buy anything unless you find something that clicks. He considered it. The thought of stepping into a public shop, browsing dresses, dealing with curious glances, made his stomach twist. But the alternative was continuing to wonder. He had realized, in the weeks since his birthday, that the memory of that night stirred far too many questions in him to ignore. It might be time to see, he said slowly, carefully. Okay, let's do it. She beamed, leaning in to give him a long hug, her warmth and excitement washing over him. I'm proud of you, Daniel. He pressed a kiss to her temple, grateful for her steady presence. I'm still nervous, he confessed. I know, she said, smiling against his shoulder. We'll go together. You won't be alone. That following weekend arrived, and with it, the plan to drive to that boutique district. Daniel fidgeted the entire trip. Fiona played upbeat music, occasionally reaching over to squeeze his hand. It felt surreal to think he might try on clothes designated for a different section of the store. Yet the memory of wearing the midnight blue gown pushed him forward. He remembered how it had felt in private, how oddly comfortable it could become once he gave himself permission to experience it. They parked on a quiet street lined with small, colorful storefronts. A scattering of people wandered in and out of shops. Daniel's nerves flared at the notion of being seen, but Fiona gently coaxed him along. Let's just browse, she suggested, looping her arm through his. If you don't feel up to trying anything, we'll just walk away, but at least we'll know what's here. They passed a few shops selling vintage accessories, hats, scarves. Eventually, they reached a boutique with an elegant window display showcasing flowing skirts and dresses in a variety of fabrics. Fiona stopped, eyeing it. This place might be a good start. He took a breath and followed her inside. Soft music played overhead, and racks of clothing were arranged in neat rows. A friendly sales associate greeted them but gave them space, which Daniel appreciated. He and Fiona moved through the racks, feeling different materials under their fingertips. At one point, she held up a subdued burgundy dress. This is a nice cut, she said quietly, glancing at Daniel with a question in her eyes. He weighed the garment in his hands, noting the way the neckline seemed modest but classy, with a waistline that might fit comfortably. It looks good, he murmured. I can try it on if the store has a private fitting area. They do, she said, and guided him toward the back. His heart hammered as he stepped into the fitting room. Fiona stayed close, but eventually let him close the curtain for privacy. Daniel took a moment just to collect himself, inhaling slowly. The concept of wearing the dress in this public place, even though no one else was around to see him, felt terrifying. Yet he realized he wanted to see if he could recapture a portion of that feeling from his birthday. He undressed down to his underwear and gingerly slipped the burgundy dress over his shoulders. It was a bit snug around the chest, which made him fiddle with the zipper for a moment. Eventually, he managed to zip it all the way. He smoothed the skirt, feeling the slightly heavier fabric sway against his legs. "Daniel?" Fiona's voice came from just outside. "You okay?" "Yeah," he answered, voice tight. He moved to the mirror, taking in his reflection. This time there was no wig, no makeup, but the sensation of wearing a dress still created the same rush of uncertainty and fascination. He breathed out and opened the curtain a few inches to let Fiona see. She beamed. "Wow, that color suits you so well." He stepped out fully, resisting the urge to duck his head. The sales associate was at the front of the shop, not looking their way. Fiona circled Daniel, nodding appreciatively. "That's a really good fit on you. How do you feel?" He stared at himself in the fitting room mirror. "Strange, but kind of good?" He paused, trying not to use words he was consciously avoiding, and simply said, "It's not the same as the midnight blue gown, but it has its own charm." Fiona smiled, her voice hushed with excitement. "We can try more if you like." They ended up selecting a couple of other outfits to try. Some fit better than others. Some styles he quickly dismissed. But the anxiety running through Daniel's veins gradually gave way to a cautious enjoyment, a small sense of stepping into an uncharted domain. Fiona's calm presence provided an anchor. Not once did she laugh at him or make an offhand remark. She treated him with genuine respect, sharing only supportive or practical comments on how a certain style worked or didn't work. Near the end of their time in that boutique, the sales associate approached them. Daniel's pulse leapt, but she only smiled warmly and asked if they needed help finding sizes. She didn't even seem surprised that Daniel was browsing dresses. He appreciated her discreet attitude. Fiona politely declined and thanked her for the offer. Ultimately, Daniel decided on the burgundy dress. It felt like a piece of that night's spark without attempting to replicate it exactly. As they went to the register, Fiona gave him a slight nudge in the ribs, a playful, conspiratorial grin lighting up her face. He managed a shy smile back. The associate folded the dress neatly into a box, and when they stepped out of the store onto the sidewalk, Daniel felt both relieved and accomplished. Back in the car, as Fiona started the engine, Daniel looked at the box resting on his lap. "That was intense," he admitted, brushing his palm over the lid. She reached over and squeezed his hand. "You did great. How do you feel?" He exhaled, leaning his head against the seat. "Overwhelmed, but happy we came." They drove home, mostly in companionable silence. Daniel stared out the window at the passing scenery, all the while thinking about how something so simple as picking out a dress could unlock so many unexpected feelings. He was grateful for Fiona's understanding and for the quiet reassurance she offered throughout the process. When they arrived back home, they brought the rest of their purchases inside. After depositing groceries in the kitchen, Daniel stood in the hallway, holding the bag from the boutique. Fiona approached, resting her hand gently on his shoulder. "You know," she said, voice quiet, "I think we should treat tonight just like that first night. We can open a bottle of wine, put on some music. No expectations. But if you want, you could wear your new purchase, see how it feels in the comfort of home." His heart thudded. He gave a brief nod. "Yeah, I'd like that." She slipped away to set up some music and start preparing a small dinner. Daniel went to the bedroom, carefully removed the burgundy dress from its wrapping, and studied it again. It was simpler than the satin gown, with a subtle neckline and short sleeves. He slipped off his everyday clothes, unzipped the new dress, and slid into it. The fabric settled on his frame more comfortably than Fiona's gown had, and he zipped it up all the way. He caught his reflection in the bedroom mirror. There he was, hair a bit messy from the drive, face unadorned, wearing a burgundy dress that contrasted softly against his complexion. Unlike the intense, dazzling look from that birthday evening, this was a calmer iteration, more understated. He took a small step in front of the mirror, noticing how the skirt shifted around his knees. A tremor of anticipation coursed through him. He returned to the living room. Fiona stood at the kitchen counter, setting out 2 wine glasses. She turned when she saw him, her eyes lighting up. "You look wonderful," she said. "It's a gorgeous color." "Thanks," he managed, feeling his face warm under her gaze. She poured them each a glass of red wine, then walked over to place one in his hand. "Well," she said, clinking her glass to his with a gentle ring, "here's to a new chapter." He sipped, feeling the pleasant warmth spread through his body. They sat together on the couch, music playing softly in the background. He could sense the difference between this moment and the one on his birthday. Then, everything had been brand new, a sudden leap into the unknown. Now, though he was still uncertain, there was at least some degree of acceptance that they were exploring a shared curiosity. He laid his hand on Fiona's knee, and she looked at him tenderly. "You all right?" she asked, searching his face. He nodded. "Yeah, I can't pretend it's not weird to me, but in a good way. Like, I'm not sure where this will take me, us, but I want to keep figuring it out." She leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder. "That's all I want too." They spent the evening talking and occasionally dancing, much like that first night. Only this time, the atmosphere felt softer, more intimate in a quiet way. Daniel no longer had the shock of seeing himself dolled up with makeup. Instead, he was simply wearing a piece of clothing that felt right for this particular moment. After a while, they ordered takeout and ate it at the dining table, laughter peppering their conversation. The new dress became a talking point. How it fit, how it made Daniel feel less like he was performing and more like he was trying something personal. Later, with the dishes stacked in the sink, they ended up back in the bedroom, where Daniel stood again before the mirror. Fiona joined him, their reflections side by side. She wrapped an arm around his waist. "It was a big deal for you to buy that dress," she said, turning her gaze from the mirror to him. "I'm proud of you." He swallowed, letting out a soft laugh. "I just keep thinking about how unexpected this all is. A month ago, I never would have guessed I'd be standing here like this." She nodded. "Neither would I. But I'm glad. It makes me feel closer to you somehow, like we're sharing each other's worlds in a way we haven't before." He met her gaze and nodded, words temporarily failing him. For a moment, they lingered there, 2 people holding each other's reflections in a long, contemplative look. The gentle hush of the night wrapped around them. They prepared for bed, and Daniel carefully hung the burgundy dress next to the midnight blue gown. The sight of both side by side stirred an emotional swirl in his chest. He wasn't sure how to name that mix of uncertainty and excitement, but he knew that going forward, these garments would remain a significant presence. They represented something he had once never dreamed of, but now felt compelled to explore further. Climbing into bed, Fiona curled under his arm. He pressed a soft kiss to her temple. "Whatever we end up doing with all this," he said quietly, "thank you for being the one to share it with me." She nestled closer, her voice a whisper. "There's no one else I'd rather do it with." He pulled her close, letting the warmth of her body calm the flutter in his heart. Outside, the hush of the suburban night provided a peaceful backdrop. They drifted off, comforted by the knowledge that although they couldn't see the future with perfect clarity, they had found a new dimension to their relationship, one built on trust and a willingness to cross boundaries they never before considered. And so, in the weeks and months that followed, Daniel and Fiona continued to navigate this unfamiliar territory at a pace that suited them both. Sometimes it was just a matter of Daniel slipping into the new dress after work, turning on some music, and letting Fiona read on the couch beside him. Occasionally, he would offer to try makeup again, though he still felt self-conscious without the safety net of the initial blindfold. Fiona stayed patient, giving him tips and never rushing him. Their late-night talks often meandered from lighthearted jokes to deeper conversations about what this new exploration meant for them. Sometimes they shared worries, sometimes they brushed them aside, and sometimes they found themselves laughing at how little they had previously known about the realm of garments and styles. But always, they remained honest with each other, cultivating a closeness that neither had anticipated. Their lives didn't change drastically on the surface. They still met up with friends, saw family, went to work, and managed finances. There were no dramatic announcements, no sudden life shifts that would have unsettled their routines. Yet behind the scenes, a subtle thread bound them more tightly, a willingness to step into each other's worlds with kindness. One evening, after another quiet dinner, they settled onto their bed, the doors of the closet slightly ajar, revealing a hint of burgundy satin. Fiona turned to Daniel and said, "I never actually asked. Do you regret that birthday surprise I sprung on you?" He met her gaze, thinking back to the swirl of sensations from that night, the makeup brushes on his cheeks, the shock of seeing himself in the mirror, and that moment of dancing in the living room, feeling simultaneously vulnerable and free. His lips curved into a gentle smile. "No," he answered softly. "I don't regret it." She reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "Good," she whispered. "Neither do I." In the hush that followed, Daniel recognized that although he still had questions and might well have new ones for a long time to come, he wasn't traveling through them alone. Fiona was there, encouraging and steady, ready to explore each step alongside him. That single birthday night had revealed an unexpected path, and while it wasn't clear how far he would follow it, he knew that it was real and meaningful, and that his wife, the one person he trusted most, was ready to face it with him. They clicked off the bedside lamp, letting the darkness fold around them. Even though the final shape of their exploration remained unknown, the feeling that lingered was simple. They were bound together by love and a renewed appreciation for each other's hearts. Whatever came next, they were in it together, moving hand in hand, no longer afraid to see what might lie beyond the threshold they had crossed.
Did you like the story? Hit that like button and tell me what you thought in the comments. Do you want to hear more stories? Subscribe and hit the bell. For exclusive content and early access, check out our Patreon. You can find the link in the description, or you can watch any of the videos shown on my right. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.